Welcome to the end of the world.
We have arrived in Ushuaia, the southernmost city in the world, and today we are starting our adventure around one of the world's most famous hiking destinations, Patagonia.
Get ready to learn everything you need to know about travelling through this unique mountainous region on a budget. From details about getting good value from your accommodation and limiting transport costs, to hiking tips and how to avoid mistakes whilst exploring one of the most stunning places in South America.
Before we begin, we are Mark and Nasa and we are currently traveling through South America. And as you will know if you have watched our previous videos, we have been making our way south towards the southern tip of this amazing continent. The time has finally come for us to do something we have been talking about for years: hiking in Patagonia. Patagonia is a region that lies between Argentina and Chile and is famous for some of the most breathtaking scenery on the planet. But it does have the reputation as being one of the places in South America that you could easily burn through money.
Before we talk about that though, how do you even go about getting down to this remote corner? Well, for us, and what is most likely one of the best and cheapest options, is to fly from Buenos Aires to the city that lies on the very southernmost tip of South America, Ushuaia. We wanted to fly from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, but as with all plane tickets to and from Patagonia, it seemed a bit expensive. But we used our old friend Western Union in Argentina, and we withdrew enough cash from Western Union. And what we did was we went to the Aerolíneas Argentinas airline agent in Buenos Aires and bought the ticket in person with our cash. That way we only paid 55% of what we would have done if we had bought it online. We're very happy because we just checked into our apartment here in Ushuaia. And as I mentioned in the previous video, this is the reason why it's so important to buy your euro or dollars at the blue dollar rate, because Ushuaia can be quite expensive, and this apartment would have cost us 134 euro for 2 nights, but with buying our cash at the blue dollar rate, we got it for just 73 euro for the 2 nights, which is a saving of 60 euro. So why wouldn't you do it? Just do it. It's great. This is one of those places that when you glance at your location on Google Maps, you find it hard to believe you have made it this far. It really is one of the most interesting places we have been, and it is the perfect starting block for your journey through Patagonia.
Whew, a bit chilly here, but not as chilly as it is over there.
Ushuaia is a scenic city surrounded by snow-capped mountains, and there are lots of hikes and tours that people like to do. And one of them is to take a boat out to see the penguins, sea lions and birds, right? But there's 3 types of tours you can take. One is a drive through the mountains where you get to a point and you get off the bus, get onto a little boat and you go see the penguins on Isla Martilla, which is the penguin island essentially. The second option is to take a boat to Isla Martilla. You can't get off the boat on this one. And then the third option is the one where you sail to the penguin island, get off onto the penguin island and have a walk around with the penguins. But unfortunately for us, our penguin tour got cancelled twice because of strong winds in the area.
Something to know about Patagonia. It's very windy. We enjoyed our time in Ushuaia anyway, and are glad we came for a visit to the end of the world. Now it was time to take the long 22-hour bus journey to El Calefate to get to one of the must-see places that any Patagonia itinerary should include: Perito Moreno Glacier.
One thing about Ushuaia is that there's no actual official bus terminal. You have to go to a ticket office, which we'll put the link of in the description down below. Long distance buses here can seem expensive, but are still much cheaper than flying and are a convenient way to get around Patagonia. But make sure to buy your tickets in advance because there are a lot of travellers in this area and the ticket offices can be quite crowded. The amazing geographical landmark that is Perito Moreno Glacier lies 90 minutes west of El Calefate by bus. You will arrive at Parque Nacional dos Glaciares, which is 15 euro each to enter. The bus will leave you within a short walk to the glacier itself, so there's no need to worry about bringing hiking boots to this attraction. We actually joked that we could have worn our Havaianas flip-flops. This is one of the only glaciers in the world that's actually still growing, and they reckon it actually expands by like 2 meters every day, so that's mad. As we're walking past it here in the walkway, you can hear it cracking and some of the ice pieces are falling into the ocean and you can hear the wind howling over the top of it. Not only is it still growing, it's actually one of the oldest glaciers as well. They reckon it started forming about 2.6 million years ago.
In 2004 they made a hole to reach the bottom of the glacier, and it's actually 500 meters. See here, it's not like, oh, it's sitting on the water. No, it's like iced cliffs. The lake starts at the bottom of these cliffs. and there is a lot of ice under this water as well. So this is basically like an iceberg where you can see only the top and there is much more under the water.
In the pictures I seen, I kind of expected there to be a corner where you could see the glacier from its perfect perspective, but there's actually loads of places that you can stop and have a look at it from all different kind of angles. So when you get to the car park, you see hundreds of cars and buses, and you're kind of thinking, here we go again, another tourist trap. But when you're actually at the glacier, it's not that busy, and there are loads of places you can get a good view of it from.
Next up on our Patagonia itinerary was a trip to one of the most iconic mountains in the whole of South America and one of the most incredible natural attractions we have ever laid eyes on. Mount Fitz Roy.
To get to this epic viewpoint, it will take some hard work, but as the old saying goes, if it was easy, everyone would do it. From El Calefate, take the short bus journey to El Chalten, a delightful little village tucked at the bottom of this amazing region of snow-capped mountains and lakes. You can actually see Mount Fitz Roy from the town itself, but that's not enough. The iconic hike to Laguna de los Tres starts right in the village of El Chalten and is a 20-kilometer round trip from the start of the trail. This hike is completely free, and you won't even need to take a bus or a taxi to the trailhead. They say that the first part is Patagonian flat, and we just found out the Patagonian flat is not so flat at all. The hike itself is moderately easy for the first 8 kilometers with stunning views of Fitz Roy and the surrounding mountains along the way. What the fuck?
This view is mental. Like, I don't understand how it can get even better.
However, the last 2 kilometers to get to the Laguna are long, steep and challenging, but the reward at the top is absolutely breathtaking.
We had seen hundreds of pictures and videos of this famous hike, but nothing can prepare you for how immense these mountains, ridges and glaciers look when you see them up close and personal.
So we're almost halfway back down to El Chalten after our hike, and we just thought we would say some things that we noticed along the way. So with regards to what you should wear, just wear loads of layers, because at some points we were roasting and sweating and we were taking off our jacket and our fleeces, and then we were just wearing a t-shirt. Other times, especially at the summit, you need your hat and a big jacket, like, because the wind gusts or something else here. Wear sun cream because when the sun does shine, it's pretty strong here. With regards to food, we brought ham and cheese sandwiches that we made last night. We brought 2 each with us. To be honest, we probably didn't need that many. We had lunch up at the top, and then we had some boiled eggs as well, and we're fine. Water, we brought 2 litres each, but when we were finished then, there's loads of rivers and little streams that we could just fill them up in, so I wouldn't worry too much about water. Bring a bottle and then you can fill it up as you go along. We don't usually drink water from streams and stuff, but here it's really, really super clean and lovely. It tastes delicious, so directly from the glacier.
Some things which I find interesting to know before doing this kind of things is, can you bring a drone? At the beginning they say like it's not allowed to fly it here, and I wouldn't advise you to do it anyway if it would be illegal, because the wind is really strong here. You would just lose it, like the motors would be overloaded, so just don't risk it. And also I would advise you to bring a wide lens if you have, or just use your phone for this kind of shots, because this lagoon is quite broad and Fitz Roy itself is so massive, like we didn't expect. It's not like, oh, we lake and like some rocks. A wide lens would be a good choice. And it was the most difficult hike, but it was the most incredible place we've ever seen. So just do it. Do it if you can.
We must admit, we did get very lucky with the weather and only stayed in El Chalten for 2 nights, doing the hike on our only full day in the village. We met some people that had been there 5 or 6 days waiting for a clear sunny day to do the Fitz Roy hike, so just keep that in mind. There are also smaller hikes that a lot of people choose to do, but we just chose to do the best one. If you're not like us and you find yourself in a spell of bad weather, you're probably better off waiting in El Calefate until the weather forecast changes, and then when you see a spell of good weather, then go to El Chalten, because El Calefate is a nicer town. It's got a lake with flamingos in it, lots of places to eat, drink and more affordable accommodation. When we were looking at accommodation for El Chalten, we found everything on booking.com was very expensive, so we went on Hostel World and found our hostel called La Comarca, and it seemed to be the cheapest place that we found anywhere in El Chalten for the 2 nights.
So when visiting Patagonia, a lot of people like going to Bariloche, which is a lake district in Argentina, and there is also a lake district in Chile just across the border. We decided to skip this part because we just thought we've seen enough lakes lakes, but maybe we are wrong and this place is very beautiful. But anyway, if you want to go to Bariloche, we would advise you to fly from Buenos Aires to Bariloche and then make your way down. So there is a 24-hour bus from Bariloche to El Chalten, and then you go to El Calefate, Ushuaia, and from Ushuaia you can go to Punta Arenas, which is Chilean side of Patagonia, which we are going to talk about now.
A bus from El Chalten back to El Calefate and a connection onto the Chilean town of Puerto Natales will leave you in the perfect spot to explore Torres del Paine National Park. This time we decided not to commit to the famous W or O hiking treks that are so popular in this park. So the W trek is over here towards this glacier is the first route, and then the second route is through the mountains, and then the third trek is around this mountain to the three towers. You can drive around and get an up close view of the actual trek itself rather than hiking it, which for us has been a great option. To do the multi-day treks, you will have to prepare a lot of camping gear and book a campsite in the park way in advance.
There are regular buses from Puerto Natales bus station to the trailhead to do this famous hike Base Torres. But there are also a lot of one-day tours to explore Torres del Paine, which we believe is a very underrated way of exploring this area.
From getting a beautiful view of Grey Glacier, hiking up to an amazing viewpoint of Francis Glacier overlooking the bluest water you could imagine, and even making it to a picturesque setting to take in the stunning three towers with these flamingos, this was a very rewarding day trip and one we would highly recommend. On this tour we've actually lost count of the amount of places we've stopped at, and each one has just been more dramatic, more beautiful, a better view of the mountain, the bluest lake you've ever seen. It's just getting better and better and better.
One difference between the Chilean side and the Argentinian side, however, is that you do have to pay the hefty fee of $35 each to enter Torres del Paine. After Puerto Natales is just a short trip to Punta Arenas, where there are direct flights to Santiago, which is our next destination.
We're here in Punta Arenas, famous spot for seeing penguins, and also for it being right on the Strait of Magellan. We have 2 penguin tours booked and both got cancelled, so we're going to just pretend that these birds are penguins because they look kind of like penguins from a distance. So we've seen penguins. They are definitely penguiny enough for me, so happy enough.
So before we tell you which side of Patagonia, Argentinian or Chilean we preferred, we would love to say that we absolutely love the both of them. They are quite different as well, so it's not like you are repeating yourself for going to another side. They were absolutely stunning, the landscape is unbelievable, so if you can, do both. But now I'll just talk about some points which made us prefer one side over the other. The first one is when you go on the long hike in El Chalten, you don't have to drive anywhere, you just walk out of your accommodation and you go on your hike, then you come back to your accommodation. Great day out. But if you do the same thing in Torres del Paine, you have to go on a bus, then you do your 24 kilometer hike, then you go on the bus. Imagine, like, it's in my head is so tiring because it's a challenging thing. So obviously Argentinian side is just way more convenient. If you prefer camping in Argentina, you don't have to pay for it at all. You can just take your gear and camp at the campsites. But in Torres del Paine, you have to pre-book your camping sites and then pay for it. So way in advance, a lot of money and stuff like that. And Chile is the most expensive country in South America, so everything you do is automatically going to be more expensive. So Argentina is naturally just winning in this point. We love both, but if you would choose one, we would probably advise you to go to Argentina.
So to evaluate, Patagonia is not going to be cheap whatever way you do it, but the point of this video is to try to give you some tips on how to budget and how to limit your spending when you're there. We've put together 5 key tips that we found really helped us get the most out of our money when we were in Patagonia. Tip number 1, you're going to be sick of hearing me say this about Argentina, but you have to use Western Union. Get as much cash from Western Union as you possibly can on the Argentinian side because it helps so much. Honestly, it helps so much. Some places even give you a great exchange rate if you've got US dollars, so if you can, bring some US dollars as well.
Tip number 2, book Airbnbs or hostels with kitchen so you can prepare your own simple meals. Another tip about accommodation is try to book your accommodation closer to the bus station so you don't have to spend money on taxis. Actually, in El Calefate we couldn't find taxi at night, so we have to walk like 1 kilometer. So don't repeat our mistake.
Tip number 3, this might be an obvious one, but take the long distance buses instead of flying everywhere. Even though the long distance buses are still not the cheapest thing you can do, flying in Patagonia just seems to be overly expensive, and the long distance buses save you a night's accommodation because you can sleep on the bus and they're quite comfortable, so definitely use this option in Patagonia.
Tip number 4, buy 6.56 liters bottles of water instead of buying a lot of small bottles. You go through a lot of water on this kind of adventures, and little things like this add up.
Tip number 5, don't spend longer in each place than you have to. The difference in spending 2 to 3 nights in one of the towns compared to spending 4 and 5 nights in one of the towns is obviously going to be huge, and usually when you are somewhere in Patagonia, you're there for a specific reason. If you're in Calefate, you'll be there to see the Glacier. If you're going to Chalten, the big goal is to see Fitz Roy. If you're in Puerto Natales, you want to get to Torres del Paine. Book 2 to 3 nights if the weather's good in each place. Get to the town, do what you got to do there, and leave.
We absolutely love Patagonia, but for now it's time to explore the northern part of Chile. After spending some time in Santiago, we're heading to Atacama Desert.
We're going to be renting a truck in the Atacama and doing some road trips, so we'll make sure not to miss out on those adventures.
If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It will mean the world to us. What do you think about our itinerary? Would you commit to that? Let us know in the comments.
And if you do make it to Patagonia, we hope you'll have something to remember just like us.